What's this, like the 47th, 48th day or something like that of the Joe Manchin presidency? Or is it Joe Manchin, the Senate Majority Leader? Oh, no, he's just another senator. Oh, okay. Interesting, because he gets everything he wants. When the minimum wage is in the bill, Chuck Schumer takes it out of the bill just for Joe Manchin. He doesn't put pressure on him, nothing. Takes it out of the bill. When he wants unemployment, inexplicably wants unemployment to go from $400 to $300. Why? Why do you need to do that? I think you should be giving the people more money. Instead, he says, oh, no, just take away $400 from the poor's for every single month. Who cares? When he wants that, he gets it. So essentially, Joe Manchin, is the president. He's the leader of the Senate. You know, he's all these things. Maybe not de jure, but de facto. I think these things can be said to be true. And let's see what Joe Manchin said recently on Axios about the filibuster. Obviously, the filibuster is something that the GOP will use pretty much to, make sure no legislation passes, because basically you need 60 votes with a filibuster. You can only do so many things through budget reconciliation, which is what the last, what this relief bill was done through, requiring it to have 50 votes plus the VP, which is a tie-breaking vote, 51 votes. But everything else pretty much has to go through the filibuster. So as the Democrats talk about, they want to do, HR1, which we'll get to later, that's going to have to get 60 votes to pass a filibuster, as well as, they're talking about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. That's going to need 60 votes. You're not going to get 10 Republicans to vote for those things. They will filibuster that. So, what I've been saying, and I said in one of my other videos, is you got to get rid of the filibuster. A lot of, lefty activists have been pushing for this, because if you want to get anything done, you're pretty much going to have to get rid of it. And if the Republicans come into power sometime over the next decade, they'll probably just get rid of it, just like they did for the Supreme Court justices when they want to get what they want done. So let's take a look at what Joe Manchin said about the filibuster and whether he wants to get rid of it or not.
Would you support any kind of filibuster reform?
The only thing I have even considered or thought of is basically some through the history, how it used to be.
Making them talk.
There should be pain to a filibuster.
And
there should be pain.
And what is the pain?
The talking, basically. You
got to read the phone book or whatever.
That's it. Do whatever, but make sure you have a little bit of pain. Just don't say, well, no, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote for that. And
what other pain?
Well, you have the pain basically is the filibuster, talking filibuster. They've talked before. Some of the rules could be changed a little bit, but not to the point where just a simple majority rules. That's all.
Okay, so there you go. That's what he says. He says he wants to make it painful. Basically, right now, I guess you can do a filibuster over email. In the past, you used to have to actually stand up there and talk, which is basically what most politicians do when they go on when they get any type of tough question. They filibuster their way through the question, don't actually answer the question. So I guess that's kind of like a more minor version of this. In fact, the longest filibuster in the history of the Senate was by none other than Strom Thurmond. And let's take a look at what Sherilyn Hill, who's the I believe she's the president and director counsel of the LDF, the Legal Defense Fund. So the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. She's the president and director of that. Here's what she tweeted about the filibuster and about making it painful. She said, well, remember that Strom Thurmond filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1957 for more than 24 hours, breaking only once for a few minutes to go to the bathroom. Barry Goldwater thoughtfully subbed for Thurmond during the bio break. Remember Barry Goldwater? I believe Hillary Clinton used to be a Goldwater girl when she was Republican, before she became Democrat. So that's who Barry Goldwater. So great company. She says racists are remarkably resilient. They are, actually. And Joe Biden actually has a really good link to Strom Thurmond, and here's an article, an article headline, and I'm gonna link this article too if y'all want to go read it. But the headline is 5 quotes from Joe Biden's eulogy of famed Republican racist Strom Thurmond. That's right, Joe Biden eulogized an ardent racist. He spoke at this guy's funeral. So, like the debate over should we talk when, people like Rush Limbaugh or, horrible people die, people that have their whole life advocated to keep poor people poor and destitute and just all around horrible people. Should you, talk bad about them right after they died? No, this is what Joe Biden did. He actually went to the guy's funeral and did a eulogy for him. Just unbelievable. So that's who Strom Thurmond is. That's what the filibuster can do. So basically, the filibuster needs to go. And the Democrats are trying to pass HR1, which is the For the People Act. And here, let's see what Mark Pocan has to say about HR1. He says we need, and Mark Pocan is in the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He used to be the leader of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. I don't think he is anymore, but he's still in it. He says we need HR1, the hashtag For the People Act, in order to protect the right to vote, ensure the integrity of our elections, crack down on lobbyists and Washington insiders, hold elected officials accountable, and the era of big money in our politics. Let's get it done. So that's what he says about HR1. Sounds like a bunch of great things, and I even went through the bill, and there are some of those things in the bill. But there are also some other things in the bill. And these bills, a lot of times, these massive, massive bills, just like the CARES Act, where it was 600, 700 pages long or something like that. They had like 2 hours to read it. So basically most people in Congress didn't even read the bill before they voted on it. Yes, that's how our politics work. So HR1, which is a massive, massive bill, there has been some, talk about it, about things in it that aren't very good and that aren't exactly what Mark Pocan said. And mostly it's been the Green Party, as a third party, which, after the 2016 election, just, basically was said to be the reason why the Democrats lost, even though the Green Party, I believe, got less support than the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson. So if you want to say that the Greens took away votes from the Democrats, but you don't mention that Gary Johnson, who got more votes than Joe Stein, took away from Donald Trump, then that just means you're a partisan hack and you don't really care about the actual facts. So we saw what Mark Pocan had to say about HR1. So let's see what someone who, or an organization who doesn't have an interest in a two-party duopoly has to say about that same bill. And this is from the Green Party's website. They say HR1, also known as the For the People Act, is sold as a way to get money out of politics and to protect voters, but it contains several poison pills for democracy and opposition parties like the Green Party. Most alarmingly, HR1 quintuples the amount of money Green presidential campaigns will be required to raise to qualify for federal matching funds, from $5,000 in each of the 20 states to $25,000 per state. So that's a 5 times increase. And I think it's already difficult enough to raise these funds to get on ballots in these states, and it's quintupling the amount of money that they're going to need for that. Continues by saying the Green Party stands opposed to the anti-democracy poison pills in HR1, a package that is sold as a voting rights bill, but would actually undermine everyone's right to organize electorally against the parties of war and Wall Street. True. In a recent Gallup poll, a record 62% of U.S. voters said we need a new major party. I could definitely see that being true. I mean, it was a poll, and I think a lot of people are just stuck in this two-party duopoly. I think both parties have successfully shamed people away from third parties into just voting for the Democrats or Republicans for fear of being spoilers or having spoiled your vote or whatnot. In addition to quintupling the money presidential candidates must raise to access presidential primary public matching funds, other poison pills in HR1 would abolish the general election campaign block grants that parties can access by winning at least 5% of the vote in the previous presidential candidate or previous presidential election. HR1 would eliminate this provision that was created to give a fair shot to alternative parties that demonstrate significant public support. Replace the general election block grants, where each qualified candidate receives a set lump sum of public funding for campaign expenses, with matching funds through Election Day, a huge step backward for public campaign finance reform, using the above-mentioned criteria designed to squeeze out alternative parties and independent candidates. Eliminate the limits on donations and expenditures candidates can receive and make what kind of campaign finance reform is that? I agree. That seems like it's doing the opposite of reforming campaign finance. It's actually making it worse. it's making dark money and, super PAC money more available in these presidential elections. And we know that, money corrupts politics. It also inflates the amount of money national party committees. This is the craziest one to me. This is just unbelievable. Inflate the amount of money national party committees like the DNC and the RNC can give to candidates from $5,000 to $100 million. An astonishing increase of 1,999,900%. That would give party bosses virtually unlimited power to flood elections with big money. That's crazy. And you saw what the DNC did with the Iowa caucus and the app and all the fuckery that went on with that. Wow, that's just astonishing. So, I mean, there you have it. There's a lot in there that, I'm sure it is hidden because I went through the bill. Oddly, you can't actually click on the subsections to read those parts of the bill, but I went through the actual bill, and because I can't click in the sections, I just read the head title of the subsections, and this is what I found, and I find this very, very interesting because there were people on Twitter saying, that's not true, this doesn't actually do that. I looked it up, I couldn't find it, so I went through it, and this is what I found. Section 5201, increase in and modifications to matching payments. So that sounds a lot like the $25,000 that you need now to get public matching funds, as opposed to the $5,000 per state that you needed before. So that sounds a lot like that. Eligibility requirements for matching payments. That's 5202. 5203, repeal of expenditure limitations. So that sounds like something to do with that victory fund, or just being able to, spend loads of money on these campaigns coming from super PACs, just all type of just dark money. So it doesn't really seem like this is making it, harder for dark money and super PACs to be involved. It seems like it's making it easier. And I mean, there's going to be more details to come out on this, I'm sure, but right now this looks a little fishy to me. 5206 says modification to limitation on contributions for presidential primary candidates. So I don't think they're modifying the limitations to be more strict. It seems like they're going to modify the limitations to allow more contributions to be able to go to presidential primary candidates. Section 5207 says use of freedom from influence fund as source of payments. So that's primary elections, and then this is general elections. It pretty much looks very similar under the general elections part. So I don't know. This HR1 bill, I think there is a lot of good things in it as far as like increasing the ability for people to be able to vote. There's a lot of restrictions around the country, state by state, for people being able to vote as far as, same day voter registration, or being able to vote online, all these different things, like vote by mail, I guess. So I don't know. HR1 sounds, on the surface, it sounds like a really great bill. But, of course, with these large bills and with the Democratic Party, you get kind of two sides of, the same coin. You get the good side, which a lot of things in HR1 do sound good. But then you also get these poison pills, which is really effectively making it harder for third parties to run. And why would they want to do that? Well, the Democrats and the Republicans love their duopoly. They act like they hate each other, and they might even hate each other. But they don't want anything like ranked choice voting, which means that if you wanted to vote for me, you can put me as your first choice. And if you wanted to vote for the Democrat, you can put the Democrat as your second choice. And if I don't get enough votes on the first round, then your vote goes to the Democrat, your second choice. That would eliminate any type of spoiler candidates or any of this other type of BS they try and push on third parties, even though it's your legal right as an American citizen to vote for whoever you want to. Do never be shamed for voting for a third party. If you look at the Green Party's platform, I guarantee you'd agree with a lot more stuff on there than the Democratic Party platform. So I don't know. We'll see about HR1. I mean, it's not going to be able to be passed if Joe Manchin doesn't get rid of the filibuster. And Chuck Schumer's funny too, because he's been tweeting some very progressive things. Like he tweeted this: a disproportionate burden of student debt falls on people of color. President Biden can use executive authority to cancel student debt and help close the racial wealth gap. Are you going to do anything to pressure him into doing that other than tweeting? Anything? Because I didn't hear much about you the entire time, with this last bill being negotiated. I heard a lot about Joe Manchin, and it seemed like whatever Joe Manchin Joe Manchin got. And you didn't really do, you stripped the minimum wage out of the bill. So you basically saved Joe Manchin's ass from actually having to vote on the bill or an amendment taking the minimum wage out of the bill, which would have needed 60 votes. Instead, you did the opposite. So Bernie's amendment needed 60 votes, basically filibustering yourself. So, I mean, he's just another one of those opportunists. He'll tweet nice things, and when people aren't looking, he'll go behind their back and legislate against them. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's Joe Manchin, the filibuster, and HR1. We'll see how the rest of it kind of falls into place. But I mean, the Democrats are going to need to get rid of the filibuster if they want to get any of this legislation passed. And I don't see Chuck Schumer pressuring Joe Manchin to do that. I don't see Joe Biden pressuring Joe Manchin to do that, because we basically live in a time where Joe Manchin holds all the power.